Ще се метна само за малко, ще го спусна на кафе.
Можем ли само да направим един тест? Има ли ехо?
Тако. Не знам, като говоря някакво ехо, чува ли се при вас?
Не, перфектно.
Супер. А какво ще три в фейса ли?
Вече стримваме. Ти си лайв.
Значи да внимавам и говоря.
Вече да.
Добре.
Реално ние стримваме и във фейса, и през Teams. Но през фейса, според мен, повече хора могат по-лесно да стигнат до това нещо.
В Eventbrite има ли запис? Ще кажа, че в Фейсбука имаше 30 на attend, нали?
Имаме нещо от рода на 35-40, мисля.
Те сега като го видят онлайн.
Предполагам, че през Фейсбук ще има повече. Просто искам да видя дали ще е удобно за хората. Това е най-важното. Дали ще е удобно за хората. Това е най-важното. Така, изглежда, че можем да се чуваме по този начин.
Чудесно. Те в фейс, като се джойнат, хората не могат да задават въпроси и такива неща, нали?
Могат, само че чата идва през Live Studio на Restream.io, така че аз мога да помагам.
Добре. Ако някой има въпрос, предполагам, ще трябва мога директно да ме свърши.
Само за момент и аз ще си взема едно кафе. Имаме време за това. Така че ще е първият ивент, който стримваме през няколко платформи. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Не съм добавил в Twitch. Може би следващите сесии ще бъдат.
Мисля, че за Twitch трябва малко по-различен контент да направим.
Sequel Beats е през Twitch.
Верно ли?
Да, не си ли видял?
Стига, не.
Имаш сесии.
Това си якото. Това е. SQLG геймери, Unite. Тук Борянка дойде, Стоянчо дойде, даже чувам пликаща мишка. Здравейте, здравейте.
Добър вечер.
Здрасти, Ванка. Аз си брадясал, мале, ето и лятото е уморил.
Не бе, напротив, усъвършенствам се стила.
Мастър, задобряваш.
Така. Още малко време има докато почнем. Борянка, какви са те неща с curated таблиците само за инсайдерите? Мога ли така? Искам и аз.
С кое?
Те таблиците, които бяха за фичър таблиците на Power BI, дето излизат в Data Types в Excel. Чувъркала ли си го това? Аз не можа да го повторям.
Да, въобще не съм си играла. Аз почивам, бе. Аз не съм като вас Брадясвам по друг начин. Днеска ми е първи работен ден.
Верно?
Да,
От колко време?
от април. Аз определено успях да си почина.
Голям кеф. Браво.
И сега още не знам за какво ми говориш тук. Праща от време на време разни работи, ама общо взето съм далеч от всичко.
Сега ще има да се връщаш.
Много ли има да чета?
За Power BI ли? Не. Сега ще го разкажа интересното и после
така.
на 6 линк.
Те и без това на всеки месец сменят иконките, местата на иконките, нали? Те беше, поне ще фана последната версия.
Да. Не, държа да отбележа, че съм си харесал по лично усмотрение някакви неща да покажа. Не мога да покрия всичките неща, които се случиха.
Ето, предполагам и не е нужно. Те скоро ще ги махнат половината.
Айде сега, ще ги махат.
Ванка, ако искаш, може да започваме.
Is it like 6 o'clock? And I don't know, is there anyone that doesn't speak Bulgarian? I don't know. Should we keep it in Bulgarian or in English?
Up to you.
Up to me.
Ванка, то ще бъде записано, така че в зависимост от това какво искаш да бъде записано и оставено като артефакт, може да избереш езика, който повече ти харесва.
Okay. Това ще го направим на английски. Okay, so the recording started. Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. This is the first meeting since the last couple of months, actually, for the PA user group. I can't really remember when was the last meetup. So anyway, this is the September meeting, and I hope we'll keep up the schedule with a monthly meeting and a lot of conferences in between. My name is Ivan, and I'll be your host today. We are actually, I was just told by Mikhail that we are actually using several different platforms to restream this. So things are going to be quite available in the different social networks. So let's see how that's going to turn up. I'm really glad that I have the chance to do this session. It's been an interesting couple of months in the Power BI world. I'm not sure how up to date you are, but today's session is generally on, let's say, the couple of things that, well, I'm impressed with and I find really useful in the Power BI world that happened since May or June. I've prepared just a short slide deck. Most of the things I want really to show you in Power BI and in the service, and I really hope we don't have any issues with the authentication, because Microsoft is having huge issues with Office 365 and Microsoft 365 authentication since like last night, and fingers crossed that things will work out. If you're wondering what this strange yellow thing is at the bottom right of the slide deck, that's the logo. I kind of forgot to put the logo of Power BI on my slide deck, so I had to improvise. Anyways, what's the agenda for today? I want to show several things that really are, according to me, really interesting, and then that can help you in some real world scenarios. And I was kind of thinking, okay, I have an hour. There so much happened in the desktop world, in the service, in Power BI mobile even. And then we had a couple of releases for report server and some exciting news around Power BI Premium. And I was kind of shifting between the different topics, and okay, I decided, okay, so you know what, I'll try to cover everything. I hope 1 hour would be enough, but if not, I guess you can always leave and then look at the recording later on. If you have any questions, you can use the chat window. You can unmute if you are in the Teams. You can unmute and ask away. No problem at all. If you have a question in the chat, Mikhail will let me know, and then probably I can take up the questions after the session or in between. It really depends on the question. So, what has been released and what actually happened throughout the summer? When this whole COVID thing happened, I was kind of thinking, okay, you know what, Microsoft is keeping a monthly schedule on releases. There are a lot of things happening, but with this COVID thing, things will slow down. Eventually, well, they slowed down actually for a month. I think the May release or the June release had the least features, but then everything after that was quite packed with things. On top of that, we had Ignite last week, where we had a few additional updates, which kind of rocked a bit the world in Power BI, particularly around Premium. So what I'm going to cover today, I want to just briefly mention some of the updates that happened outside desktop and service world, and then I want to move on to the Power BI desktop and the Power BI service updates, and I'll show a couple of interesting things that, as I mentioned, I find interesting for real world application. So pushing aside Power BI desktop and the service, what happened in the Power BI mobile? There were two releases at least that I can recall, and there we have some features like bookmark menu available on the application. You can easily personalize visuals. There's even a dark theme for iOS only. I don't know why it has the priority, but anyways, if you're using the Power BI mobile on your iPhone or the iPad, you can check out the dark theme. Other than that, the gateway was pretty much updated on monthly basis to keep up with the mashup engine. With Power BI embedded, something very interesting happened actually last week or a couple of weeks ago. The React library was released, so if you're doing React.js, you can embed now Power BI and use Power BI embedded. With Power BI report server, there was one release that I think happened in June. The next one was supposed to happen in September, but last week, Chris Findon Post actually sent a message, announced that they decided to postpone it so that they can include more things within that release. That would make sense other than just having a release in September. And two very interesting things regarding Office integration and Power BI. One of those I consider really interesting because it's well, the feature itself, it's called feature tables, and it allows you to use the data types functionality in Excel with your own data. So you can basically publish something like metadata layer as part of Power BI and use it across your Excel and across your Power BI files. I will try to show you this one, but with just some default data types rather than Power BI integration, because it's still only for Excel insiders. But the second interesting thing is actually much more increased integration between Power BI and Teams, particularly the new app in Teams for Power BI, which allow you to consume applications, chat about reports, and generally interact and collaborate within Teams in the same like plane without leaving the Teams. You can work on your reports, which is kind of cool. Outside those, the next thing probably really interesting before I switch to desktop and services, Power BI Premium. Alongside the last 3 months, there were a couple of updates on the Premium app and the template app that gives you details on your refresh schedules, workspaces, premium utilization, and so on and so on. But the second really cool thing that happened with Premium is that it will have a per user license starting very soon. It was announced last week on Ignite. There are not a lot of details around the pricing, because probably this is the first question you're going to ask. But generally, the idea is to lower the barrier, the entry barrier for small companies, individual users to use premium features like reporting services and paginated reports, like AutoML, like cognitive services, and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, this is what happened outside the desktop and the service. Within the desktop and the service itself, we had, I think, three monthly releases in June, July, August, actually September, so it's for now. And the major updates that were released, I'm not talking about preview features only, and I'm going to focus mostly on the GA features. What actually got really grabbed my attention is the things that happened in the modeling and reporting part of Power BI. I'm not going to talk about new visuals or new settings, if you wish, or the updated or the updates in the visual interface of Power BI. I think that's something you can find on your own and dig down, dig deeper on your own. I really want to show a couple of things related to modeling and reporting. And there were really a lot, so I kind of picked up only a couple of those. First, my top 3 on the modeling part. There is direct query with data flows, which makes data flows a very unique place and a very great place to keep your data, your prepared data. So create this abstraction layer between your sources and your models, so that you are not really dependent on what happens with the source, if the source moves or you have a new column, and so on and so on. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with data flows, but just as a side note, I'm really a huge fan of this because it allows the data preparation layer to be separated between the source and the report itself and the model, which allow you and gives you much more flexibility in terms of where your data resides. Is it in a data lake? Is it in a database? Is it in a text file? And the most important part is that your users don't have to know this neither. They don't really have to care if this is in the data lake and have to know how to connect to the data lake, if this is in a SQL database and how to connect to that SQL database, and so on and so on. Before the direct query to data flows, the only availability that we had was to import the data. And if that data was large, obviously we had the issues we have with large databases being imported in SQL in Power BI, like SQL Server, for instance. But when you have direct query, this is pretty much the same as having direct query in your Power BI desktop and Power BI service, working on large data sets, or if you have any security considerations, or for some reason you have some other limitation that does not allow you to bring data in the Power BI report itself or import it, then direct query is for you. So now you can do direct query to data flows. So you can make your large data sets work again and place them in data flows, because this was a limitation before this functionality. The second part around modeling, and I know that this might sound crazy, but again, I'm talking based on my experience and the issues I've been having in the last, I don't know, couple of years. We finally have a model view in live query. For those of you who don't know live query, this is when you connect to analysis services model, and you're practically using Power BI only for visualization. It's like direct query, but to analysis services layer. And within that live query, whenever you had live query, if you have worked with it, you would have noticed that you can't really see what are the tables, what are the relationships, and you can't really do anything besides creating reports when you are with analysis services and connected to with live query. Now, within couple of releases back, so I think it was introduced in July's release, you can actually connect to analysis services, and you'll be able to see the model view in your Power BI desktop and see actually the model behind. Why is this important? Besides, of course, the point that you can see the model. Well, I think that this is important because it also paves the way for Power BI desktop being the next modeling solution for analysis services. Because if you now see the model in read-only view, there's not really much to go if you want to make it read-write and commit the changes. Besides that, there is this thing. The enhanced metadata is now GA. What is the enhanced metadata? Well, you know, probably you've heard, I've spoken this a million times probably. Under the hood, Power BI is using the tabular engine. The tabular engine, though, in analysis services and Power BI was kind of different. They were using a different, let's say, tabular object model or slightly different. The functionalities were not one-to-one, so you can't really have the same things like perspectives, for instance, or translations in analysis in Power BI desktop, but you could have them in analysis services tabular. With enhanced metadata, what the Power BI team did is actually take all those differences and kind of incorporate the same metadata engine that's running in Analysis Services Tabular or Azure Analysis Services 2017, 19, and so on. And they put it in Power BI, which opens the door for things like perspectives, translations, modeling, even with external tools like Tabular Editor. You can now model your entire report as within Tabular Editor. If you haven't heard about Tabular Editor, I strongly advise you get to know about it, download it, play with it. I will show it in a bit as part of the external tools. But these are my top three things that were released around modeling, because they kind of set the stage for Power BI being a really great and universal modeling tool, even for analysis services. And if you've worked with Visual Studio on developing analysis services, you know what a pain that is. Now, let's switch to reporting. So what actually happened is, well, there were probably more than 100 things that were released or updated or introduced in the last 3 or 4 releases. But again, the most crucial ones for me are the following. First, perspectives and personalized visuals. Finally, you don't have to have 10 different reports for the 10 different users, which kind of like tables but not bar charts, and then a third user who likes pie chart but not bar chart or a table. Personalizing visuals and perspectives allows a read-only user to change the visualization type without having to rewrite the report or save it as a different report, which is huge. This was one of the drivers for users to kind of produce the same report over and over and over again. Well, now that's gone. And I'm planning to show you how this whole thing works. Then the second thing is the decomposition tree. For some strange reason, this gets used a lot. I don't know if you've worked with decomposition tree, but it's really a great visual that helps you, using some kind of an AI in behind, helps you to kind of categorize and drill down a certain number, a certain measure down to the different categories, attributes, and dimensions that you have as part of a single visual. The third thing, which is kind of really cool, and I'm going to show you as well, this is the drill through button. I know that this is just drill through, but what's the revolutionary thing about it is that you can actually enable that drill through button and enable the drilling through only in certain conditions. Like I want to have drill through, but only if I've selected a certain country, or if I selected an individual country within a visual, which is kind of cool, because back in the days you have to click somewhere and you have to do some additional drill through, and you have to know that, okay, you know what, I have to go and drill through to this report because someone told me that I have to do this. And if you have to do 10 drill throughs, it gets really, really cumbersome for the user. So with the drill through button, you can kind of guide your user and navigate it to a more detailed report and create your user story and data story much more comprehensively. Couple of other things that were also really great, but let's say they are impressive, but I don't see there, at least from my perspective. I would love to hear your opinion on that. But auto page refresh, smart narratives, and QA with arithmetic operations are the three other things that are kind of impressive. Probably they'll be used in the future, but at this point, I don't really see them very useful, at least with my experience with things that I'm doing and so on. What is auto page refresh? Auto page refresh is basically refreshing your page with the data that got in, let's say in the service when you publish it, and this allows scenarios like if you have direct query, or if you are often refreshing your reports, your data sets. Let's say if someone opens up a report on the, let's say, some large monitor, and it keeps up, and the data doesn't really change unless support. If you change the data set, well, auto page refresh helps you exactly with that. Smart narratives is a visual which is able to provide explanation of the numbers that you have in a certain graph. So basically it says, well, you know what, you have 26.5% more from the black clothes than the red ones in the month of June. AI is being used to produce this kind of output. And if you're really interested in smart narratives, look at the latest release of Power BI, release, desktop release for September, and you'll see a great demo around that. QA and arithmetic operations, you can use arithmetic operations in QA. So, for instance, give me the sum of this field and apply 10% on top, for instance. This is what QA and arithmetic operation support means. Again, I'm not really sure how this thing is going to end up in production and how exactly it's going to be used, but it's still impressive thing to play with. What happened in the service? The greatest thing, I think I'm most impressed with the things that happened in the service, and those are deployment pipelines. Deployment pipelines finally, well, they finally try to solve somehow the problem of, well, I wouldn't say CI/CD and DevOps, but the problem of publishing and using some kind of a dev test production flow and publishing of your reports. Deployment pipelines are a premium feature only. I will show you today how they work. They, I'm not sure if they can be automated, but they can definitely help you streamline the process of publishing to dev, reviewing and publishing to QA, testing it, and then publishing to prod. And all that can automatically also change your connection strings in the report. So in test, you're pointing to your test SQL server. When you move to QA, you're going to point to the QA SQL server. And then finally, when you move to production, it will automatically be replaced with the production connection string. You don't have to parameterize this in your report. The premium per user, I think I already covered that in the beginning, but this pretty much allows you to get access to premium features with much less money or commitment to Microsoft. We'll see how the pricing will go and what will be the limitations. These are still not very clear. And then finally, some enterprise-related releases in Power BI service, which were not very popular. They were not really there wasn't so much, let's say, news. Well, they didn't really make that much the news in the Power BI world, but for enterprises, those are really great. And if you're working on enterprise, please go and check those out. First, blocking the classic workspace creation. If you work with Microsoft Teams, Azure Active Directory, and generally in any organization that uses Teams, you probably have noticed that whenever you create a team or a security group in Office 365, you automatically also get a workspace in Power BI. And if you are in a large organization and you have 20 different teams, you have 20 additional workspaces that are not used for Power BI at all. And what if you have 1,000 workspaces? Well, that thing can get really hectic. So what Microsoft did is actually set on tenant level, created a setting which says block classic workspace creation, which means that even if you create a team or distribution group in Office 365, you won't get a workspace. You will be creating workspaces only from your Power BI tenant, which eases the whole kind of management, let's say, of those workspaces. The second really important thing is that Power BI can now be restricted to be used only in a private VNet, meaning that it can be restricted from access to internet. And I'm not talking about Power BI report server. I'm talking about the full scale Power BI protected by an Azure virtual network. It's very specific. The deployment of this thing is very specific. You have to deploy custom templates in Azure to get it working. But if you're interested, just Google Power BI in private net, you'll get the instruction. It has some crazy, strange limitations. So be careful with that. You might hit some blockers if you want to enable this. The third thing, which is kind of the falling in the enterprise-related bucket, is that you can now bring more than one Azure Data Lake storage account, generation 2 obviously, in your Power BI. Before this release, you were able to have a single data lake that is mounted to your Power BI tenant. Now this thing is improved and you can mount a data lake per workspace. So if you have 10 workspaces and you have 3 different data lakes, you can decide which data lake to connect where. Of course, this means that you have more than one data lake. If you decide, you can connect the same data lake to all your workspaces. It really depends how you organize your data lake architecture. And then the sensitivity labels and dataset certification is now generally available. This is really useful, especially for information users. And if you use your Power BI for a single stop shop for your semantic layer, you can promote, you can certify data sets, you can apply labels to your data if you integrate it with Microsoft with the sensitivity feature in Azure. I forgot the name. It's a separate service, I believe. You can also integrate it in Power BI and kind of label your data. Is it official? Is it public? Is it confidential? And so on and so on. Yeah, I already mentioned that. And with this, I want to move to the demonstration. And what I want to show you first is very, very interesting. I forgot to mention about the external tools, but anyways, I'll show you in a bit. I will start in reverse order, and I want to show you first the perspectives and the personalized visuals. Then I will show you how to work with external tools, what are external tools, and then we'll move on to deployment pipelines. So basically, I'll create kind of a story, end-to-end Power BI report build with dev, QA, and prod deployment, integrating it with external tools like DAX Studio and Tabular Editor. And you also see some of the new features around reporting and modeling. So without further ado, I have this report here. I just brought some data in from the AdventureWorks light table. Some of you might be familiar with it. And I brought only 4 tables. Just give me a second. I brought 4 tables, the sales order header, the sales order detail, and the customer and the product. Fairly straightforward model, nothing special about it. You can see that there's also some data, not that large. I mean, the customer has, what's that, 850 rows. And then I have a report. In that report, I decided to utilize personalized visuals and the bookmark button. So let's start with the, not bookmark button, but the drill through button. So I have this visual here that shows all the company names and what's their quantity that they bought in total, and what are the money that they made out of that they paid for those quantities. So for instance, you can see that Action Bicycle Specialists bought 267 units of different products, but they actually paid a lot more than East Side something, which have bought 286 but spent less money on that. This is kind of a new visualization in the legend, which allows you to use what's that, fading color. I think it has a special name, but anyways, so in this visual, notice if I click, let's say, the Action Bicycle. When I click it, automatically this button is now enabled. And if I click it, I will go to the, let's say, detailed rows page that I created, and I can see in details what this company actually bought. Okay, so how to do this button in here? So if you notice, this is if you look at insert, come on, button, it's basically you can add any button, and on the action you can choose the drill through. When you choose the drill through, you can choose the destination. So basically you are telling to the button where to drill through. It's like a bookmark, but instead of bookmark, it's actually a drill through, passing parameters. And then you can tell, you know what, I want you to be enabled only when, come on, open. Yeah, only when I filter on company name. So if I filter on company name here, this gets enabled and company name will be pushed as a parameter in here. See? So this is the drill through button. You can utilize it for different scenarios, like enable the drill through button only if certain conditions are met, like I want to have this table selected and I want to have this value less than some number and so on and so on, and only then enable that drill through. Okay, but So let's go and enable that drill through. What if I go here and I decide that I don't really like this table? Back in the days, without personalizing visuals, you would have to duplicate it or change this visual in place. But what you can do now is you can allow this visual to be personalized. This is the icon that allows you to personalize it. You can't personalize visuals in Power BI desktop. You can only say and allow a certain visual to be personalized. You're personalizing it in reading view in Power BI service. So how do you enable the personalized view? First, you have to go, and it's still a preview feature, so you have to enable it. If you go to options, preview features, there's this personalized visuals. So if you click that one, you are able to personalize your visuals. You can enable it on the report level as well here. So if you don't need it globally, you can do it on report level. But when that's available, you can use this icon in the service. I'll show you how this actually works in a bit. So I created this report. I allowed my personalized visuals. I created this drill through button, which is enabled only on company selection, and I want to publish. The publishing experience was also slightly changed. So first of all, you'll see that you have a search now for your workspaces. So you have, let's say, 20 workspaces or 200 workspaces. You can finally search, and you can choose where to deploy it. So I'll deploy it to this existing workspace. And the second really cool thing that happened, that was actually released in the latest release, is this impact, let's say, analysis that is being done when you republish or when you try to overwrite a data set. So this data set that I'm publishing will be affecting this one report. So based on this, you can decide, okay, it's 20 different reports and a couple of other things or dashboards. So I'll need to view the impact, and it will say, okay, these are the reports that will be impacted. In my case, I know that I'm okay. I'll just replace it. And if I want to open this report, I'll go to Power BI. I'll go to this dev workspace. And here's my report. So first, I can now hide this in the service. So I don't really need the pages displayed. And I still get this drill through button. So I'm going here to this table, but as I mentioned, okay, I don't really like this table. This gives me nothing as details. I really want to know, let's say, which is the product that has generated the most of my income. So I can go and personalize this visual. So here's the icon, and here's what happens. I can choose, let's say in this case, let's go with a bar chart. And then I want this bar chart. I don't really need the company name. I don't really need the name. I don't really need the size. I want the line total. So all of a sudden, I now know that this product generated the most of the sales, and this graph will be there the next time I open the report, and it's going to be only for me. If another user opens the same report, he's going to see the table. So this is absolutely great. But What if my model is much more complicated, and instead of 4 tables, I have 30 different tables with 200 measures and 1,000 columns? What should I do? You can't really expect your users to know everything, all your fields and the entire model, especially when you have allowed them to use customization only on certain visuals in a certain report. And in this case, you would need something that will kind of decrease the amount of fields available, and that will help your users reach the results they are looking for in a much better way. For this, we have perspectives. Perspectives, actually, there's something available in analysis services like forever, and they allow you to include certain fields in certain perspectives, which helps users to see only the fields and measures that you decided to include. So, for instance, you can have the one model that has, let's say, 40 or 50 tables, but you want to create, let's say, a finance perspective that includes only the dimensions or the facts for the finance data, rather than everything else. Or you've decided to exclude a lot of the measures that you have in your entire model, a lot of the additional columns. So in this case, notice that I only have in the product table, I have the color, list price, name, and size. And I have in the customer just the last name. If I go back to the report, sorry, this one. If I go back to the report, you will notice that the customer has a lot more fields available here. The product, a lot more fields. I had only the name, the color, and so on. So how did I do that? This is using perspectives. In order to create a perspective, you need to work with Tabular Editor. Tabular Editor is a tool that connects to Analysis Services Engine and allows you to edit the entire object model. How to connect it? How to connect that Tabular Editor? By using external tools. Now, external tools is entirely new concept introduced in the last couple of months, which allow you to use the underlying model and the fired up analysis services tabular and edit its metadata, run queries against it, or even do schema comparison or documentation without having to publish it to or scrape the entire model. Look at the JSON or stuff like that. How is this entire concept working? Let me see if I can find this. So you have to create one JSON file that you need to place in a certain folder. But then you also have to create one PowerShell file. And that PowerShell file is kind of intuitive. And it's only, sorry, where is the important part? Yes, it gives you a way of getting the server and the database name of your model and hook it up to that external tool. So imagine that I want to connect to the analysis services tabular engine. I don't know if you have done it before, but if you want to use, let's say, Tabular Editor, you have to know the address of that particular analysis services, the database model name, and it was kind of tedious job. Right now, this is being parameterized, and you can supply it as arguments to whatever external tool you are creating. Like, for instance, this one that I'm showing you is taking the server name, the underlying portable analysis services, and its database name, and it's passing it to this Power BI file. And whenever you open it, it will connect automatically to the model that you have here with all the tables, relationships, and so on, and it will be able to read it. The same happens with Tabular Editor. If I click Tabular Editor right now, it will take the address of this analysis services and it will connect automatically to the model. See, the address is actually this one. The server name is Data Insider. This is the name of my computer. And then this is the name of the model that's being created. But using the external tools, I automatically connect it. And I've seen some crazy solutions like hooking up your Power BI Tabular Editor to Excel, your Power BI model directly to Excel, hooking it up directly to Python, hooking it up to whatever external tool that connect to analysis services you can figure out. So these are external tools. With Tabular, now we want to create a perspective. If you open Tabular Editor, you have to create a perspective. Let's create a new perspective called Demo Sales. Perspective. And the next thing you need to do is, well, go to the tables and decide what kind of fields and measures you want to include in that. So in my case, I want to include, let's say, only the sales order detail, unit price, and line total and order quantity, show in the demo sales perspective, and I want the customer's first and last names. We'll show them in demo sales perspective. From this point, I can click save, and this will automatically save all the changes and push them to my Power BI report. And I don't have to reopen or do anything else in order to use this, in order to use those perspectives. They're already available. But how to enable them for my report? It's kind of not very intuitive. So focus. You have to go to the page itself. This is not the visual, to the whole page. You're going to formatting, and here on the personalized visuals, you can allow a report reader perspective. And you can apply it to this page, or you can apply it to all pages, but you can choose only one perspective. The model here is the one that you have available. It's the same as the default fields. The sales details is the one that I created. The demo sales perspective is the one that we saw, that we just created a couple of minutes ago. So if you choose this one, whenever you personalize this, you will see only the fields we selected and included there. So let's actually do it. So external tools, let's publish this again. Yes, I'm going to replace this. Great. And if we go back to the report, I'll have to reload it. So I'm going to the drill down. Okay, and I want to personalize it. And I want to say, I didn't get personalized, I guess. I did overwrite it. Okay, the risks of live demos. Yeah, it should be okay now. Please work. No. Okay, anyways, probably I have to work on that slightly more, or overwriting perspectives is not something that is available. Anyways, I think you got the point. The purpose of perspectives is that you limit and focus your users and the available fields when they personalize visuals. perspectives on their own, they mean nothing. You can't really use them. They are useful when you connect to your to personalizing visuals. I haven't had the time to play and see if I can connect to a different perspective when connecting to a data set, but I'd assume not. I will be connecting to the data set rather than to the perspective, which is kind of different behavior than analysis services. But if you have the time, you can test it and see if that works. For the regular scenario within Power BI, perspectives are created with tabular editor using external tools, and you can apply them to pages, to all pages or to a single page. And if you personalize visuals within that page, you will access the respective perspective that you applied. So I have my report. I decided, okay, I finished the development. It's absolutely great. I want to push it to production. How do I do that? I'm not sure about your experience, but most of the times people do not really spend any time on testing and QAing reports. They just start using it and publishing it in a different workspace. So basically, if it's okay on my desktop, I'll publish it, or if it's okay in that test workspace, I will just download and republish it. And for the easiness of switching between workspaces, I would parameterize the data source so that I can reconnect it easily when I deploy that particular report in the different workspace, which is kind of tedious because this is not something normal for your regular users, definitely. So if you want to streamline this whole process and actually apply some kind of dev test production pipeline, even if it's not automated, you can do it with deployment pipelines. Deployment pipelines are, as I think I mentioned, that are enterprise, are premium feature. So they will work only on workspaces that are part of premium. So for instance, if I go to my workspace, this one, and I know that it's premium because of this diamond here. Obviously, I have enough money to buy diamonds, so I have also reports in premium. So I have this in premium. In premium, I have immediately a button that says, okay, view the pipeline I created, and a little tag here that says development. If I didn't have the pipeline, let's try and delete that pipeline actually. Delete pipeline. If I go back to the reports, I can now have the create pipeline. So when you create a pipeline, you have to specify the pipeline name. And what will happen in the background is that this will be your dev pipeline, and then you have two more pipeline workspaces automatically created on the same premium tier. Okay, so you can also specify this existing workspace if it's dev, test, or production. For me, it's dev, so I'll assign it, and then in a couple of seconds, no, actually on the first deployment, I'll have the test workspace created. Now I can safely delete those. When you delete a pipeline, the workspaces that it automatically created do not delete. So keep that in mind. And I have this pipeline. I know that my report is okay. I can try to refresh, or I can store my credentials, whatever. Now I want to deploy it. The deployment, there it is. First, here's the test workspace. See the square brackets. They have the test in there. This is the workspace where you will have your reports copied. And when this thing is ready, I want to show you something. First, this green arrow shows that there are no differences between those two, between development and test. If you have some kind of a difference in the report, let's say, you will have a warning sign with differences, and you can choose what to deploy by using this the checkboxes. So you can cherry pick deployments. And the most interesting part is that lightning bolt with the gauge in here. You can create only dataset owner. I'm the dataset owner. What's your problem? Anyway, I'll just cover it. I don't know what's. I don't want to troubleshoot it right now. The idea is that you can create data source rules, and you can you have a list of different connection string that you're using here, and you can change the connection strings. Like I will be using SQL Server def for the connection string, and I can create a rule that will replace the def with the production connection string. That's pretty much it. And then if I want to deploy it to production, it's going to be pretty much the same. So let me show you. So what's okay? So obviously things are okay. Data source credentials. That's okay. All right. Let's go back and see if this thing's gonna work. View the pipeline. Please refresh. No. Take over this dataset. Okay, let's go and take over this dataset. I want to show you this. The same goes with parameters. If you have different parameters that can be, you can edit them in the. So that's fine. What's your problem? Anyways, I guess that's not gonna work today. And I was the most excited about exactly this part. How easy would it be to, oh, finally, Power BI and its musings. So here's how to add a row. I have this data source and I want to change it to another data source. And let's say this one is called test on the same server, but a different database. I can save it. And the next time the deployment happens, I will get the source replaced. So if I refresh it, it will refresh from the test database. And if I move it to production, it will refresh from the production database. Instead of keeping 3 different versions of the same report or parameterizing and changing it on the dataset settings, we can use deployment pipelines. Again, you need to be also administrator. You can't be you can't have any different role than an administrator. Probably there will be some in the future. And it's still a premium feature. I hope it gets to some kind of decision that it gets also to Pro, but we'll see. Finally, I still have 3 more minutes. I want to show you one other external tool, which is the ALM toolkit, Application Lifecycle Management Toolkit for Power BI. Or how can you compare 2 Power BI reports and see where are the differences? So I have 2 reports. In the first one here, see, I removed one of the visuals. And I also created an additional measure. So this is what I have in this report. And I want to see what are the differences with the report that currently exists in the service, let's say. So I download the second report, which is this one, and I start the ALM toolkit. The ALM toolkit, so I want to have the source, the one that I optimized, and I want to compare it to the one that's in here. If you've done schema div in Power BI or in analysis services, you'll be familiar with this output. Now this thing compares the models, but not the visuals, keep in mind. So it's gonna compare only the underlying model relationships, measures, data types, fields, and so on and so forth. But it will not look for different visuals. So this is still a dream to be able to kind of see the differences in terms of visuals. But anyways, at least that's something. So you'll see that this is missing in target, and you can validate the selection. Unable to update, it does not yet support modification. Oh, unfortunately, you still can't really update it, but you can at least know the formula. So this is the name of the expression or the measure that is missing. This is the formula and the format string. So basically, you can recreate it easily. Of course, unfortunately, only by hand at this point. You can update it. That's strange. This worked. Probably there's a bug. Let's go and see if we have in the sales order details. Yeah, we do have it. So, okay, you can compare and you can apply it. No need of manual work. So you only don't have the visual comparison and the visual diff. So that's still a lot, especially if you're doing modeling in Power BI. So this is something that's going to be huge. How to get those external tools, and we'll close the call. You can install the latest versions of DAX Studio, Tabular Editor, ALM Toolkit, and restart your Power BI, latest Power BI version, and they will end up in here. And the document model, if you're interested, you can drop me a message and I'll send you the details. I don't have the link available right now, but it's I think, what was the name? Datamark. I'm not sure about the full name of this colleague, but he's done a great job. Community external tool. It's open source. It's in GitHub, so you can download it freely, and you can work on documenting your models, at least your models, like what are the measures, what are the tables, what are the relationships, and so on. It creates an automated document. With that, I'd like to thank you. It's been just 1 minute. I thought it would take me more, but I guess I didn't have that much to show you, or at least I thought so. Don't forget about, I was just going to say that we still have only 10, 11 days until SQL Saturday. So SQL Saturday Sofia on 10th of October. It's going to be hybrid, right, Michal?
Exactly. We will have 2 tracks in person and all 5 tracks will be streamed. And the place for in-person event is well known in Sofia Tech Park. We will have even several speakers from abroad who will travel to visit us. So we will have, I think, a nice event.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of the I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting to have it hybrid. So I'm kind of very curious and waiting for it. So it's free event. Just register and we'll see each other there. Other than that, I think the user group for Power BI is going to plan at least a monthly meeting. We are in process of figuring out the next date. So we'll keep you posted. Follow us in Facebook or LinkedIn. I don't know where else do we live, but generally Facebook and LinkedIn are the places where we share our events. And if you have any questions, drop me a message. And again, have a great evening and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you very much, Ivan. And we will be together next week's at our different event about Power Platform also, which is not on Power BI, but it will be also interesting with Q&A about best practices and challenges around Power Apps and Power Platform. Actually, I will send invitation in the group. Hope you will enjoy also this event.
Great. Cool.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.